afternoon, everyone. I am Chen Yek-jung, and my partner presenter is Chow Ka-ho. And today we are going to present the professional dimension of the Titanic. Here is the content that we will present to all of you. Present the duties of the professionalism first. Okay, so what is professionalism stand for? According to the NSP Code of Ethics, there are two main sentences to support the professionalism on engineering, which means whatever as a professional engineer in various categories. Professionalism is to perform the highest ethical standards on their responsibility or duties. Moreover, and other sentences which supports the ethics of professionalism to ensure a professional shall be abided in any circumstances. Let me make an example. The design engineers of the Titanic should be considered of the safety and life of the passengers while traveled across the ships before and after each journey. Therefore, why the ethics of professionalism is crucial is because there are five essential points to sustain which are shown on below. They are a hallmark of professionalism, basic qualifying requirement, an edge of in competitions, guidance to good practice, and ultimate benefit of the professions.
Thank you, Yachung. I'm Kaho. I'm going to talk about the professionals on Titanic. On Titanic, we have many professionals to make sure this giant monster can sail properly on the ocean. On the right side of the PowerPoint is our chief engineer, Joseph Bell. Under him, we have different kinds of engineer. For example, we have the electrical engineer, the refrigeration engineer, and also the deck engineer, etc. All of them are crucial to let Titanic sail properly. All of the engineers are serving for the same purpose, which is to maintain the power output of the engine, to maintain the heat supply in the ship, and also to maintain the electricity. The power output of the engine is the motion for the ship to across the ocean. The heat supply in the ship is to keep the passenger warm because outside the ship is the ice and snow. And the electricity supply is supplying the power for the radio system and also the lighting system, which is crucial for the passenger which having the entertainment on the ship. For maintaining the power supply of the ship, the engineer needs to supervising the firemen, the greasers, and the coal tuber. Also, the engineer need to make sure the shaft bearing and the thrust board were effectively lubricated. It is the crucial part for the engine to work properly. Besides that, the engineer need to make sure they maintain the pump for pumping water. The water is to cool down the steam engine and also the generator. They have to make sure they have enough electricity for the light and the heat for the passenger. Besides that, the engineer have to respond to the emergency on the ship. Those are the main duties for the engineer on the ship. Then we are going to talk about the professional failure on Titanic. For the professional failure on Titanic, we found out that it have two major parts of it, which is the design failure and also the material failure. For the design failure, Titanic is lack of the watertight compartments. On the Titanic, it have only 16 watertight compartments. It can withstand water ingress from 4 watertight compartments. However, in the Titanic accident, it had 5 watertight compartments as water ingress. Therefore, it caused the Titanic sink. For the 46,000 tons of big ship like Titanic should have more watertight compartment to prevent the accident happen. However, they decided to empty the space for other residential facilities like swimming pool and the gym room. As a result, it caused the Titanic lack of the watertight compartments and caused the sink. Besides that, on Titanic is lack of the lifeboat. It only have 20 lifeboats on the Titanic. It can only provide 1,000 seats for the people. However, we have 2,020 passengers on board. It do not have enough lifeboat for every passenger. As a result, when Titanic sink, the passenger do not have the chance to escape. They can only sink down with the ship. They have no hope. Only the unending darkness and coldness are waiting for them. The reason to cause this accident is the design failure. They want to empty the space for other residential facilities and also to cut down the budget. Besides the design failure, we have the material failure. They used two kinds of rivets to cut down the budget, around 300 millions. They used the steel rivets in the central part of the ship, but they used the iron rivet in the stand and the bolt. As we all know, steel is a better material than iron under low temperature because under the low temperature, iron will become more brittle than steel. Unfortunately, the impact is happened on the boat of the Titanic and it caused the sink. In the bow part of the ship is using the iron rivet. We don't know whether using the steel rivets can prevent the accident, but we all know steel is a better substance than iron to deal to the impact under low temperature. This is the end of the professional failure of Titanic. I will hand over to Yachong for the ethical failure of Titanic.
Thank you, Kaho. Now, I present the ethical failures of Titanic. There are two parts to elaborate that are the leadership failure of the Captain E.J. Smith and management level and design engineers' failure on the ethics. There are 2 points to support Captain's failure on Titanic. The first point is personal misconduct on his leadership on Titanic. As Titanic journey was his retirement trip from Southampton to New York, he is eager to enjoy his joyful life after retirement, and led to the reckless performance after the iceberg collision. Another point is his incorrect decision making that allowed ship driver to exceed the ship speed to catch up with the company schedule and ignore the warning from another ship when the radio operator is sending passenger private messages. Under the failure leadership of the captain, sailors and crews are disclosed that the unequal treatment on passengers and misconduct on the ship's safety is foreseeable. Unnecessary deaths can be reduced if the situations change ultimately, and also can observe that how importance of leadership and inappropriate conduct will lead on Titanic by PowerPoint shown. Perhaps management level and design engineers' failure are also inevitable to this tragedy. Firstly, the shipbuilders' failure that allowed to use the record rivets from House Factory and substandard iron on Titanic. Secondly, the ship designer Thomas Andrews thought that falsely expect Titanic is an unsinkable ship and complied the company order to revise the ship's height dimensions. Finally, the fault of the director of White Star Line is to give the pressure on Captain E.J. Smith due to the rigorous competition of ship journey on the Atlantic Oceans. Here are the references on the PowerPoint. Thank you for listening.